Well, March has come and gone, and the Pac-12 didn't do anything. Again. Are they about to go at Sacramento State?
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest sport on planet Earth. Arizona State could become a recruiting powerhouse in the Big 12. They are working to do just that. And impact players are in the portal, in case you forgot. That's all on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So, news came out yesterday, and it wasn't concerning the Pac-12, or was it concerning the Pac-12? Sacramento State is going to make the jump reportedly up to FBS. They're going to leave FCS. They have been rumored to be doing this for quite a long time. And I have thought several times before that this could be a team the Pac-12 adds. You could add them as an all-sports member. Hey, the geography works. Does every school need to be a powerhouse? All those considerations could wind up being there. The reporting indicates that Sacramento State is not going to be a primary target for the Pac-12, or even a secondary, or even a tertiary target. Heck, I was reading something the other day that said North Texas is a more likely addition than several other schools that are in the on the radar, shall we say, of the Pac-12 here. But I will say, as someone who has discussed this conference for quite a long time, getting a little bit of PTSD, just like a smidge, just a smidge, because J.D. Wicker, the San Diego State athletic director, said a while back, oh, we'll have something by the end of March. And everybody else had to be going, dude, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? Why would you do? Well, now March has come and gone. So, I mean, it makes me turn my head and go, okay, how long are we drawing this out for? I mean, I know that, media rights deals are complicated, and figuring out which schools you want to add. Yeah, that's all complicated and whatnot. But I mean, are we going to do this again? Are we going to go 17 rounds? But here's why Sacramento State, to me, is not the option the Pac-12 explores. And I'll get to what the Hornets could then do in just a moment. If you're making geography a priority, that's kind of the biggest upside of that Sacramento State would bring to the table, is they're right in that West Coast footprint. So you don't have excessive travel for non-revenue sports. You don't have excessive travel for football as well. You're in the Bay Area market. That you can present all of that as, okay, this is good. This is why they're an appealing option for the Pac-12. But if that were the case, to me, that's not the option you go down. If you were making geography your top priority, and by the way, I think this is a good thing. If you are a Pac-12 fan out there looking for them to build the premier Group of Five conference in football and basketball as well in the country, which they're well on their way to doing and might already have done, regardless of who their final or perhaps final two all sports members wind up being by July 1st, 2026. I'm not sure Sacramento State has proven, even though they have been a really good FCS football program, they're not going to bring a ton to the table from a basketball standpoint unless they completely revolutionize their output on the court. And hey, you're always one head coach away from doing that, but they haven't shown sustained excellence in that regard. But if you're making your primary decision based on football, Sacramento State, I don't think brings anything to the table that you wouldn't get with UNLV in Nevada. And reports indicate that UNLV is going to be someone the Pac-12 goes after. I think that's incredibly smart. But if you're only thinking geographically, Sacramento State is in school you would go and get. I would add Nevada before I added Sacramento State because there's at least a proof of concept. Nevada has not been a great program. I think they could be good. They've got a new coaching staff in there who I thought did some really good things a season ago. If you were just going to make a geographic-based move, you wouldn't introduce an element of risk of, hey, are you going to be able to be competitive at the FBS level right here, right now? Plus, making a jump from the FCS to the new look even the new look Pac-12, We're not talking old school Pac-12, new look Pac-12. Sacramento State is not the school that you'd want. No school really. I won't limit this to the Hornets. No school is going to be wanting to make that jump and try to be competitive right away. So if you're trying to build the best conference, which is what I think the Pac-12 smartly is trying to do, yeah, I'd go get UNLV because Barry Odom laid a foundation. I think there's a lot of upward momentum. It does make geographic sense as a secondary or tertiary consideration in there. But also you have Dan Mullen as UNLV's head coach, at least for the next several years. Having that sort of profile, yeah, I'm here for that. Is that a short-term way of thinking? Maybe. Maybe Dan Mullen wants to get back to the SEC. But if he were to be there and succeed, what you would then have showcased down in Las Vegas is, hey, we can win with a number of different coaches, and this is now just a good, sustainable program. You get donors more involved and all that sort of stuff. But if you're going to go out and add 2 schools that are going to be playing football in the Pac-12 that aren't currently committed to be members of the league, yeah, I'd go get at least 1 school from Texas, because if you're just making a geographic pitch, I don't see how Sacramento State is just too risky of a play. I think the downside is greater than what the upside could be, because give me a school that has gone from, the FCS to not even what the Mountain West used to be, because I think this new look version of the Pac-12 is above that. FCS to, ACC or Big 12, you wouldn't consider that. Those leagues are stronger than the new look Pac-12. I get it. But again, I think it is a better trajectory for a university to do kind of what Utah did. Utah, I believe, was in the WAC once upon a time and then was in the Mountain West. They may or may not have been in the WAC, but they were somewhere before they went to the Mountain West, then went to the Pac-12, Big 12. Well, that's worked out really well. I think that's the best blueprint. When you're coming up from the FCS ranks, go prove you can win at the Sun Belt level, like James Madison has done, or in Conference USA, like Sam Houston started to do this past year. Like, I just wouldn't commit to that. If I were Teresa Gold, the Pac-12 commissioner, I wouldn't be comfortable saying we believe they're going to make that level of jump. That's a huge gap. That is a Grand Canyon-sized gap between where you are at now financially, athletically, and competitively, and the conference that you would then be going to. And I think it's asking a lot to make them that sort of target. So I think that news is interesting. I think Sacramento State for the New World Mountain West, when you already have UC Davis coming in 2026, I think that makes a lot of sense. You have UC Davis, you have San Jose State over there, you have Sacramento State if you were to bring them in. That makes a lot of sense for the Mountain West to keep a strong foothold in the state of California. I don't think it would make as much sense for the Pac-12. But I certainly have had the thought before, like, would they do this? Because I've thought about it more and seen the way it appears people behind the scenes that are orchestrating all this sort of stuff are thinking. I am not out here saying this is a move they got to do, this is a move they could do. I don't think it's feasible at this time. Maybe one day. But I think they've got to prove it in a conference that's not as good as the Pac-12 first. If you have thoughts on that, which most of you usually do, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter. All of that good stuff. We're going to the Big 12 next, because in the Big 12, you have this program in Tempe, Arizona State, and what they're doing cannot be ignored. First, this episode brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Daylight savings snuck up on us again, and if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, squeezing in a round of golf after work, that's what I'm usually doing, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. So I'm a big golfer. I also, as you may or may not know, do a lot of podcasting. And so I need a boost sometimes to do all those things in a day, and 5 Hour Energy is always there for me. I love their flavors. I love the on-the-go convenience. It's all what you need. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango, a personal favorite of mine. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. That's where I usually get them. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized with 5 Hour Energy. Kenny Dillingham wants to build Arizona State to last as a Big 12 contender. Richie Bradshaw of Locked On Sun Devils knows that, and he also knows what Kenny Dillingham knows. You got to recruit. Richie, this is not a premier recruiting conference, and if you can up the ante on the trail, you can start to have a better roster than most of the league, or maybe all of the league in a couple of years. ASU absolutely has that potential with the recruiting talent they've got right in their backyard. They currently have in 2026, I know it's early, but they have the number 25 class in the country. And Richie, I'm going to say something that makes me a little bit sick to my stomach for you, my friend. Arizona State has not had a top 25 recruiting class since 2020. And that is sickening if you love college football, which Kenny Dillingham does. I don't know that he is ever going to let that happen again. So why are you excited about what ASU is doing?
Well, I love that you bring up that the last class was in 2020, because that was in, if we can call it the quote height of the Herm Edwards era. That's when things like people were actually buying in a little bit. You were coming off of a year where you'd recruited Jaden Daniels, who was a 5-star, depending on where you were looking. And Herm was able to bring in some guys, but obviously since then, the stain has been very prevalent on Arizona State University. And that's when NIL started to really get going and everything. And ASU falls behind. But Kenny Dillingham, if there's one thing that we know, and if there's one thing that you know as a Locked On Ducks host for Oregon, it's that Kenny Dillingham is a very, very good recruiter. Mm-hmm. And he's someone that can get in these kids' ears, and he tells them as this old kindred soul who can at the same time relate to these kids, like, hey, come to the program and compete, but don't come here if you're not willing to do such, if you don't want to buy in and everything like that. And that speaks to these kids as a younger guy that is finding ways to relate to them, but also is able to talk to them at a level where it's a lot more understanding. And I'm not trying to be your buddy. I'm not trying to be cool with you and everything like that. Like, I'm trying to be a coach, but I am going to be a mentor for you. And that really speaks to these kids right now.
Yeah, I think that what Dillingham does so well, he presents himself publicly, and I get the sense he does this privately as well, given the recruiting results we're seeing here. He's such an easy guy to latch onto. He's an easy guy to like. He's an easy guy to get behind, because you can tell he loves what he is doing. Like, he is genuinely passionate about not just being a college football head coach, about being the head coach at Arizona State University. I think this is the rare instance, it's rarer than people probably think, where the hometown kid or the one of us is the head coach at a school, and it works out. Jim Harbaugh, of course, worked out at Michigan. You also had Scott Frost at Nebraska. That didn't go particularly well. You can find examples all over the place. This seems to be one where that's all resonating, and everything just seems to me, from the outside looking in, and I want your thoughts on this, to just be a really good symbiotic relationship where the university is supporting Kenny Dillingham. Kenny Dillingham plugs the university. He knows what it means to be there, what it can be, and all that sort of stuff. And that recruiting pitch of, hey, I want to make this what I know it can and in the eyes of many should be. And that's what I think is just so likable about him, and is also why he's having a lot of success. And oh, by the way, he's clearly a really good coach.
Yes. To turn around a program that was in the lowest of lows that the university has ever seen, and one of the worst situations that we've seen in recent years for a college football program, and pull them out from consecutive 3-win seasons to an appearance in the Peach Bowl, it's pretty crazy. And one of the things that I have brought up many times on Locked On Sun Devils is this is a really pivotal year for Kenny Dillingham, because it's year 3. And year 3 is when you start to see your recruits come up. Not the previous regime's guys, and not the transfers that are brought in for season. These are your guys. You have your guys that are going into their junior years, or maybe they redshirted for a year, or maybe they're going into their second year, or maybe you found some guys to start immediately. But now you're starting to see the group that Kenny Dillingham has been placing his fingerprints upon for the last 3 years start to get onto the field. And it's going to be that showing of, are you just a good recruiter? Like, are you Kevin Sumlin? Or are you a good recruiter who can coach really well as well, like several of the most successful coaches of the last however many years? You can plug in whoever you want. There's that task that he has to live up to right now. And we're looking forward to it, and I do think that ASU's up to the challenge. But Spencer, the direction that ASU recruiting is going right now is absolutely absurd. I don't know, to the listeners, if you guys prefer a single recruiting outlet over another, or if you're like our good friend Brandon Olson from Locked On Gators and think that everybody is a clown when it comes to that. But do yourself a favor and look at ASU's upcoming visits for the month of April from 24/7 and see how many have the warm status next to it, which indicates that ASU is very much in play for these guys.
Yeah, I think that the class being where it is right now is a good foundation, and that's how I look at other classes. If you're not in the top 25 or top 10, wherever you want to be as a program at this point in the calendar, it doesn't mean it's over. But I mean, USC added another commitment yesterday, by the way, and they had one the day before. They currently have the number one class in the country. They might not finish there, but they have established a certain floor on what their 2026 class will be. So I think the floor for ASU here, Richie, is top 25 in 20. Maybe I'll say top 30 for 2026, which would still be an upgrade over the last several cycles. But in the long-term outlook of ASU, when you look not just at this 2026 class, but what it could mean for future recruiting classes and building talent and getting it onto the field for the Sun Devils, I don't see why they can't be one of the top 3 recruiting programs in the Big 12. And frankly, I don't see why they can't be number 1 from year to year. Maybe not every season. Texas Tech is making big investments with a lot of talent in their backyard. BYU is making some big investments as well. They've got a lot of money flying around, and kudos to them for that. But I just look at ASU and say, man, you've got all the tools to finish top 3 in Big 12 high school recruiting rankings every single year.
Yeah, and it's that whole sleeping giant thing that's being developed. As of right now, that top 25 recruiting class, ASU has 2 4-star kids. They have got Jake Fely, who is the key to everything right now. He is more than likely the future of the program at quarterback should Sam Levitt decide to declare at the end of the season. And then they have Israel Briggs, who is a 4-star tight end. They have 2 4-stars on the team right now. They have landed at least 1 4-star every year under Kenny Dillingham. And keep in mind, that's impressive for where the program was at. But one of the things that I can go back to when ASU was going to play Texas in the Peach Bowls, a lot of people were overlooking ASU. And one of the biggest reasons why, Spencer, was the perception that ASU doesn't have the talent to stack up with Texas. Like, these guys aren't NFL players, and they're not big enough or strong enough or fast enough. And Kenny was able to coach them up to a point where it's like, yeah, they can stack up with that kind of competition. Well, guess what? Now you are getting those players. Now you are recruiting 4-stars on a regular basis, and 5-stars are very interested in the program, and they're visiting, and they are placing them in some of their favorites. And ASU is very quickly turning things around there. They're fixing that perception, and now the weakness that the team had of they don't have the talent to be able to keep up with the elite teams, that's not going to be true in the next 2 years if things just continue trending like they do. And if this year is as successful as we're hoping in Tempe, and you prove that you can coach, not just recruit guys, there you go. You're going to go through the roof. One of the things I guaranteed when Kenny Dillingham got hired is he will get at least 1 5-star before he is done. We're on that way. We are on that way.
5 stars to Arizona State. That's not a sentence you hear a lot in college football. And this is a program, by the way, we're talking about recruiting rankings and being in the top 25. And yeah, Texas recruits at a really high level, top 5, 10 caliber year in and year out. But this is how you start. It's a long process, but this is how you start closing the gap between yourselves and those higher end programs across all of college football, and continue utilizing the portal as well. But within the last 5 years, this is a program at ASU that had a recruiting class that ranked outside the top 100. They brought in the 103rd ranked high school class. Now here they are in the top 25 for now. Takes work to keep that momentum going, but if they do, I got my eye on the Sun Devils because I think they can be a premier high school recruiting power in the Big 12. Richie Bradshaw knows that. He's Locked On Sun Devils on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Richie, I always enjoy our chats. I really do. It's fun. It's informative. It's easy. But now I will stop using all your time. I do want more of your time, though, listening to or watching this show, because impact players are still in the portal or in the portal again. Yeah, people out there that are going to make an impact on Saturdays, you need to be aware of. First, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NCAA tournament is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. Plus, if you want to bet college football, you can do just that. And if you like college football, which you probably do if you're listening to or watching this show, then everything you could possibly want is over at FanDuel. You've got win totals, individual games can be wagered upon, national title odds, conference championship odds, all that and more at FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Check them out at FanDuel.com. If you're looking for impact players in the transfer portal, which doesn't fully open for another couple of weeks, they're already in there if you know where to look. I've discussed David Bailey at Stanford throughout this week here on the show. He's the top player in the transfer portal, and I suspect he winds up at a Texas school, Texas Tech, or he goes on to be a Longhorn, which is where I would go if I were him. But hey, lots of good options. Notre Dame, Georgia, UCLA been circling the wagon. USC might be pulling back a little bit in there, but still, you never know. You never know. But one of the Texas schools would be where my guess is. But there's another player who's expected to enter the transfer portal, and that's Andrew Simpson. Andrew Simpson's a linebacker at Boise State who has played his last 3 seasons with the Broncos and has been an incredibly productive player. In his 2023 campaign, he was second team All-Mountain West. He recorded 66 tackles and 6.5 sacks. That's pretty darn good. Now, this past year, he had 45 tackles, 3 sacks, and 3 forced fumbles, which, by the way, came in the first 2 games of the season. He forced 2 fumbles against Georgia Southern. That was on the road. Then Boise State went on the road to future number 1 team for most of the season, the Oregon Ducks. And, oh, by the way, he forced another fumble there and had a sack. He had half a sack in the Mountain West Championship game against UNLV, half a sack against Penn State. The tackle numbers weren't quite as big this season. I don't think that's because Simpson had any sort of drop-off. He didn't have an injury to speak of, but he was a part of a defense that had a lot of really good players all over the place. And sometimes individual statistical production can take a dip when you have that many guys that can chip in and contribute. But this is someone who at 6 foot, 240 pounds, has got his body fully ready-made. I'd expect him to be an NFL draft prospect after this season. And if he's leaving Boise State, he's going to a Power 4 school. This is not a case where I think, would wind up at a San Diego State or a Fresno or a Tulane or anything like that. No, he's going in the portal because other schools see, oh, that's an NFL caliber linebacker, which I think he is. He moves incredibly well in space. He can chase down mobile quarterbacks from behind. He can serve as a quarterback spy. Maybe his best attribute as a linebacker, you saw this with 6.5 sacks in that second team All-Mountain West season from 2 years ago. His ability to blitz from the second level at any spot on the offensive line, incredibly useful for a defense coordinator. If you wanted to, you could line him up at the edge spot in a pass rush specialty situation, and I think he would do just fine. But when he blitzes from that second level, he is explosive, he is strong, dynamic sort of guy right in the heart of your defense. He moves better for someone who is 6 foot, 240 pounds than someone who is that big should be able to move. So this is someone who, I don't know if all the paperwork is processed and he's in the portal, but it has been reported he's going to leave Boise State. I expect he winds up at a Power 4 school, goes and makes an impact as a starting linebacker. And then I saw that his teammate, Braxton Fely, who's the interior defensive lineman most snapped for the Broncos in 2024, had 5.5 sacks last year. He also is in the transfer portal. Now, his Pro Football Focus grade's just 56, whereas Simpson's has been 73 or higher in each of his 3 seasons of college football. Pretty darn impressive. But what I thought about most once I saw Fely go in the portal was, wait, those are 2 guys that were key contributors for the Broncos defense in their run to a Mountain West championship in the college football playoff last year. How are they replacing those guys? Now, the Broncos typically have year in and year out the most talented roster in the Mountain West. Those are non-zero losses coupled with a couple of wide receivers and Ashton Genty at running back I think they've brought in guys or already had guys on the roster that can fill the running back position for Spencer Danielson and company. But I tell you what, it's not the same Boise State team. Doesn't mean they won't be great. But you're losing guys that are Ashton Jeanty, a couple of their wide receivers, Andrew Simpson at linebacker. It's a non-zero number of guys. I'm just keeping my eye on it. We'll see. We'll see how all this progresses. Maybe I'm worrying for nothing, and I'm not even worried yet. I'm just noticing. Hey, we're losing a couple of real guys, a couple of real playmakers here. If you're the Broncos, so those are two guys I expect to find pretty solid homes if they're leaving Boise State. That's not a place you typically leave. Remember, Ashton Jeanty could have left. He decided to stay. Why? Because he knew what that team was capable of. I don't think you're leaving that program with where Spencer Danielson has it right now unless you're getting a Power 4 offer. So curious to see where those guys end up. Simpson in particular, I think his potential is immense. And I shall close with my not-so-secretly favorite player still available in the transfer portal. I told you there were impact guys. There are. There will be more when the portal opens in a couple of weeks. But guess what? TJ Harden's still in there, running back from UCLA, multiple years of experience, body is filled out like Simpson. A guy of his size doesn't typically move as well as he does, and yet he does. And I think he just needs a shot. Maybe he winds up out of G5 and is number one running back. He could be a driving force for that team getting to the playoff. You look at a team that likes to run the ball like UNLV, for instance, what they've done the last couple of years. If they didn't feel good about their running back situation, I think they do. Dan Mullen seems to be confident in a number of different areas. I'm just saying, I like TJ Harden, man. I like it. Maybe he's a number two. Maybe he's an insurance policy. But like every other type of insurance policy in your life or in football, you never think about it until that moment arrives, and all of a sudden, it's the most important thing in your life. I'm just throwing it out there. So Andrew Simpson, TJ Harden, and to a lesser extent, but still Braxton Fely, watching to see where these guys end up. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.